Gerard.
Yes.
You're in from China.
Yep, just arrived last night.
Yes, and how's China these days?
Right, that's a big question. You know, a lot of people talking about the leadership change that's coming up. A lot of people talking about downturn and reestimation of GDP. So there's a lot on the headlines.
Yeah, investment is tough, isn't it?
Investment market's been tough on the equity side, but there's been a big boom in the fixed income side. A lot of the wealth management products looking for fixed return, something better than just putting your money in the bank.
You're running a slightly unusual fund management business in China. Would you like to describe it?
Sure. It is unusual. The regulatory environment, as anybody that's been to China knows, it can be complicated. And what we've been able to do is to establish an advisory business onshore. And it's a wholly owned foreign enterprise, and we advise asset managers.
A WFOE.
Yeah, exactly, a WFOE. Asset managers, securities firms, trust companies on products. So why do they want to work with us? They want to work with us because we go out and we find clients that are interested in a specific investment theme, and then we go to the trust company, for example, and then launch a product. And that's what we do onshore. And then in Hong Kong, we are a fully licensed 149 asset manager, like anybody else. And then at a parent level, our parent company is Azimut, which is a listed company in Milan.
As a WFOE, is this the business model going forward that you would recommend for others to come into China?
Well, I think we're one of the first companies to actually go out and execute this, and I think it's a good open platform which allows us to cooperate with a number of different financial institutions onshore. There's banks, there's trust companies, there's asset managers, and each of them have their own advantages and disadvantages. So as an advisory firm, we're allowed to we can participate and can collaborate with any of them, which I think is a good platform.
You said trust companies you're working with. Trust companies in China have grown enormously, mushroomed up as an industry. Is it difficult keeping track of all of them?
Right. Well, we don't keep track of all of them. We try to try to find a few preferred vendors, preferred trust companies. So I'll give a shout out to Zhonghai Trust, which is the partner for our Cash Plus product, and they've been terrific. They've introduced some clients as well, which has been fantastic. So there's a few big ones. Some of them are a little bit more aggressive, some are a bit less aggressive. But your point is correct. The trust companies are now bigger than the asset managers in China.
And what we're seeing as well is obviously performance returns from these, but isn't that a bit of speculation sometimes? I mean, how accurate are the numbers, and can you be sure that they're accurate?
The funny thing about a lot of these trust products is they're CDOs. They make a bunch of loans, they repackage them, and they sell them back. And everything's been great because none of them have gone bankrupt. But if there is a bankruptcy, there's going to be some panic. And I think what you're going to see is if they do go bad, if one of these wealth management products goes bad, the trust is going to step in and make the investor whole instead of having what you have in Hong Kong, for example, which is riding in the streets.
Yes. The fund management industry is still growing enormously in China. Is there a point at which it will plateau, or do you think it's still got a few years yet for growth?
I think it's going to see different growth in different areas. There'll be some specialists that evolve. Right now, the banks are literally the 800-pound gorillas in China. They're very, very big. They control 80 trillion renminbi of deposits, and that's where a lot of the money sits right now in the asset management industry. And the trust industry is only 2 trillion, so very small amount of money in the asset management industry, even in the trust industry. So I think you're going to see a migration from the banks to asset managers, wealth management, and even insurance companies as well. And I think that's where you're going to see a lot of growth. I would predict that the banks will get smaller over time. And I think the government is keen to do that, to decrease the size of the banks.
As a foreigner living and working out of Shanghai, how easy is that?
Well, I think, I'm biased, but I think if you look at the number of people who look and talk like me, it's very, very low, and particularly in the industry. There's a lot of foreigners in Shanghai, and they tend to work in real industries and real companies. They make housing for light fixtures for automobiles and door skins and engine compartments. But in the financial services industry, there's still very, very few.
So it's a tough life.
Oh, it's a great life. You know, it's a great.
So you're not
life.
complaining?
No, I'm not complaining.
And language-wise, are you?
Language-wise, you know, you get by.
You're coping?
Yeah, coping well. Yeah, coping well.
Do you find it there's a bias against you for not necessarily reading as well as speaking Mandarin?
Well, you know, my Mandarin is at a level that you know I can get around. I can have meetings, and people are always very interested in understanding, you know, how much Mandarin you know and how much you speak. I find that.
Then do you end up having a conversation in English?
Right, that's exactly correct. You know, so I think, you know, the effort's important, but language is just one element of doing business in China. If you speak Chinese fluently, that's terrific. That doesn't necessarily mean you have complete access to the ability to do business in China.
Yeah. Staffing-wise, how big is your business?
We have 12 people on the ground in Shanghai, 7 people on the ground in Hong Kong.
How difficult is it to get people and keeping them?
Getting people is easy. Getting good people is difficult, and keeping people, we've actually had 0 turnover, which is great, and we do all of our training in-house. So we're not necessarily looking for experienced people from the asset management industry in China. So a lot of those individuals grew up in an industry that had some bad habits, so we try to get people that have some experience, maybe overseas or maybe in another industry, and then try to train them about what it is we're doing at AZ Investment.
And going forward, how do you see life?
I see there's a big runway, you know, to use an overused phrase, big runway in China, a lot of opportunity. It's about seizing that opportunity, trying to, you know, use another metaphor, hit singles and doubles, don't try to hit a home run. And you know, we talk to a lot of foreign companies that want to do business in China. They say, well, you know, if it's not $1 billion US, it doesn't mean anything. Well, in order to get to $1 billion, you have to go through 100 million. And if you can get to 100 million, to me, that's a successful business, and then work from there.
Good luck.
Yep, thank you very much. Good seeing you. Cheers.